as competitive as their international counterparts. Okay, but we have to also understand historically why the way it happened. Okay, historically, if you look at it, an IIT was essentially meant for teaching, whereas the CSIR was essentially meant for research. So these two were different, were made with different, in a different manner. Okay. Right now, of course, the teaching institutions are also becoming research institutions. But then the question is, there has to be very fine balance, because finally, Indian universities are funded greatly by either the public money for teaching or by the students' tuition fees. There is very little, endowment that the Indian universities get. Okay. And research can only be funded by endowment. If we don't want to take the student money and to use it for the purpose of research. Okay. So it has to be also a function of the way they are funded. Since Indian universities are predominantly funded by tuition fees, essentially they need to be more teaching institutions. And the new education policy also talks about two types of institution: teaching institutions and research institutions. And I am, I will be a keen observer how these research institutions are funded. Is the government going to fund research institutions, or if there is a, government has to be very, very, what to call, tactful in prioritizing where they fund. You want to fund a research university, or whether you want to fund the primary education. So essentially the research funding has to come from the beneficiary of those funds, like the industry bodies or those government institutions which are going to use that research. Are they going to fund those universities, those research universities? So if you look at the whole issue of funding of institutions in India, it is predominantly not funded through endowment. I'm using the word not funded through endowment, and hence there is a challenge of research. Otherwise, Indians are very good in both research and teaching, and they are highly successful abroad. And whenever they took it up in India, they are highly successful in India as well. I don't have any doubt about the capability of the Indian, professors or the Indian academia. It is only how do you prioritize it?
True. In fact, that is quite to be seen. And in terms of that, then the next stakeholder groups, which is the students, current who might be in intermediate programs, not in the passing out batches, but who are pursuing the programs right now, the new batches to be admitted, and their parents. So this student and parent stakeholder body, what would you say to them about the new policy? What should they really expect? What is it in for them?
See, I don't know whether you saw some of our advertisements which are coming up in the newspaper right now, and that came up before the announcement of the policy. The question is that there is too much of peer pressure or parental pressure on a student when they choose their career. Okay, and lot of them, I don't know how many of them actually stick to the choice of their undergraduate degree. How many of the mechanical engineers, I'm just taking an example, are actually doing job in mechanical engineering, and how many are doing, what I call software development? Nothing wrong. Okay, nothing wrong in that. But the question is, what is it that the student should look at? The student should be allowed to explore and experiment, and should find out what is best for them, rather than being under any pressure either from the peers or from the parental pressure, what we say. So my suggestion will be that for a student to look at what they would really like to do, what they're good at, explore, and accordingly choose where they would like to be, what kind of career and what kind of education they would like to pursue. But the good thing is, the good news is that the new age universities of today already allows that flexibility to, try out multiple things in the initial years and then decide where, what to call, you would like to, which stream you would like to graduate. So if you look at it internationally, the way a student gets admitted in the university is only the undergraduate program, not in the school. Like you don't get into a BBA or a BCom or a BSc or a BA. After getting into the school, a student decides where they would like to go. Okay. So it's a declared major versus undeclared major. In India, it is 100% almost like declared that I get into a BBA. So I think this education policy allows the students to explore, and hence the parents and the students have to think in terms of that, okay, can I get into a college which is my right, which is the time to actually explore and experiment, to actually do it and find out what is it that I am good at, and then decide on the degree or the major, so to say.
Yeah, so in this, I think the academic credit system of transfers or the bank system, I think that is going to work out really well. And the multiple opportunities for entry and exit, perhaps explore something, go work, come back, or maybe even if you have to take a break for circumstantial reason, they can do the same thing, right? So that is something that is possible. How do you take this policy? How do you think the faculty members, teaching community really has something to gain from this, or what is it for those stakeholders?
See, any policy, any statement that we make, okay, there will be some people who will be, very positive about it, and some people who will say, okay, there are so many drawbacks. You cannot make everybody happy. No policy can make everybody happy. Okay. I think this policy is forward looking. Okay. It sets a direction. It also is in sync with the aspiration of the young India. Okay. And from the perspective of the faculty members, it also opens up opportunities for the faculty members. And the idea is this, that faculty members who would also like to continuously update, explore, I think that creates an opportunity, because see, then when you give the student to the student a choice, which means the school which is doing well will also attract more students. A faculty who is doing well will attract more students. So this policy should actually promote merit. Okay, merit based policy, even from the perspective of the faculty members. So faculty members who are really good, I think they will benefit out of this policy.
And in fact, I think the B.Ed system of education also, the Bachelor of Education system, is also undergoing or will be undergoing a rigorous overhauling as well. So that would, I think, take care of the school teaching system as well, and right inputs possibly will also contribute to good teachers coming out if everything falls in place. So last but not the least, the regulation is something that the regulation landscape specifically here for the higher education system, we are looking at in the future that HECI will come in, which is you will have separate verticals for standards, accreditation, regulation. How is it? What's your perspective on that?
See, it is not about what you call what kind of regulator or what kind of regulation system we have. Okay. The same system operates differently if operated differently. Best example is the election commission. Okay. We never knew the role of an election commissioner till the time T.N. Seshan became an election commissioner. Correct. After that, suddenly rules were the same. The election commission was the same. Suddenly, we know what the election commission and the election commissioner is capable of doing. I can tell it from the perspective of standalone